Matt Beall of the Matt Beall Limitless Podcast. How are you, sir?
Doing good, man. Appreciate you having me on, George. It's always good to chat with you, my friend.
I'm thrilled to have you on. How many podcasts have you been on? You're doing one a week at least.
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing one a week for Limitless. I've got one every other week for Legacy, which is just a business podcast that I do internally for the company. And then, yeah, I've been going on some external podcasts here and there. I went on Demystify Sci.
They're great, aren't they?
Yeah. No, they're good people. They're curious people. They run a good show.
They're intellectually honest too, like you are. And we're going to get to that.
Yeah, no doubt. Yep.
I mean, they're on a true, it's not agenda driven. Hey, I believe this, so everything is true and I got to get to my end point.
Right.
They're kind of picking their way through.
Right.
Data plus speculation plus cynicism about the status, the cynical scientific cynicism.
Yep. No doubt.
We're not discovering anything anymore because you don't properly use the scientific method as you have done with the pre-dynastic Egyptian vases. It's now up to enthusiastic patrons and curious non-credentialed to follow the scientific method, follow the data where it leads, and figure out what everybody's willing to write off as a mystery in the mainstream. Well, we don't know,
Yeah.
And let me get a little pitchman stuff done. The podcast here is always in support of the Cosmic Summit, which is coming up June 20th and 23rd. All right, so less than 6 weeks now. Sales are very, very brisk. There's a chance we could sell out, and I very much would like people to purchase tickets as early and enthusiastically as they can, and make sure that when you make your hotel reservation to tell them that you're with Cosmic Summit, even if you make it at the very end, and the discount is no longer available because the discount for the $179 rooms in a luxury hotel, it expires like a week or two before the thing. But even if there's some reason you come at the last minute, tell me you're with Cosmic Summit, and it'll keep me from paying for a room. So it's coming up June 20th. We got 6 different ticket types, and to the point of having Matt on the podcast, among other things, is that we're going to have some hands-on experiences. And we're adding a lot more kind of fun extracurricular stuff to the summit. And that includes, as far as social stuff, a field trip, which now is locked in on Friday with 2 buses up to Pilot Mountain. Matt, we'd like you to join us on that. Be a lot of fun. Won't go into depth about that, but look up Pilot Mountain. It's a pretty damn cool place, about 40 miles from Greensboro. And we're going to watch the sunset on the solstice Friday, June 20th. Then Saturday night, we've got the premiere of Atlantica, which is an astonishing Atlantis documentary based on true discovery, not speculation. And it has an unbelievable ending that I cannot bust for people. But we're going to have the United States premiere of a very highly produced, presumably on its way to be very successful, revelations about Atlantis, and that's Saturday night. Then we'll have a big party Monday night. We got 6 different meals. We got breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. But we've got some kind of corollary projects. And Matt, in addition to speaking, is going to have a dedicated room for the Vases. And Adam Young is going to be in that room as well. They're going to have some technical equipment. Matt's going to bring a vase or two. And people will be able to kind of, we'll see how it plays out. Don't want to overpromise, but people will be able to, the public will be able to touch them, see them, perhaps hold them. I insist that you bring, or I'll get it myself. We have to have a thick shag carpet in that room, Matt. I would think you would agree, right?
Yeah, we don't want them breaking.
No, we don't want to break them. Although so many of them, I was looking at one and some of the content the other day, it had one of those broken lips, and it was pretty much good. And you just know that at some point in history or prehistory, someone just wanted to kill themselves because all of them have been broken, and no one ever would have been casual with them, I don't think. Do you think people were casual? Unless they were deliberately breaking them, like under Saqqara. Do you think people ever didn't think that they were special?
No, people always knew those things were special, man.
Yeah.
Those are incredible. The broken ones are typical, like the repaired ones, the ones with the cracks in them are typically the ones with the thinnest walls. So that's usually what you see in the ones that I've
So
got.
all those chinks and dents and gashes and gaping things that you'll see, that these things that are still perfect and priceless and all of that, but some of them have been a little bit beat up.
Yep.
Somebody had to go, oh shit, oh, what did I just do? Been down on their hands and knees and wonder whether they could glue it together like we've all done with the China and yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it was a bad day for somebody for sure.
Yeah, that's right. You had a fantastic podcast. I hadn't really locked his last name, but I call him Dr. Max.
Yeah, that's what I call him too. We don't need to get in specific on his
Fomachev Zimbalov.
Right, there you go.
And he's a complete badass, man. I like that guy.
He's smart. He's a smart
He
guy.
is smart, man.
Yeah.
These subjects cough these people up. They cough up two kinds of people. The intensely curious that I think you and I fall in the category of, right? The unstoppable curiosity. If you get a bone in your mouth, you're not going to let it go. And then the incredibly intelligent. And there's generally a mix of the two, but I call it coughing up because to me, there seems to be some process where people get interested. People are pushing forth, trying to gather more information like you and I are. And then out of the interested people, there's some extremely intelligent people out there that take an interest in this that can be very productive, but they're not in the right field, they're not in the right discipline, they don't have the right credential, whatever in the hell it is. They just have a different lifestyle than as a academic. But those people come forth and it's really, really neat. And I think there's some process underway kind of in this great weaving that somehow it's going to transition into kind of a crowdsourced knowledge advancement, that these aren't accidental in the big dynamic of epistemology through the centuries, that right now we're transitioning into a place where more knowledge is going to be produced by people like yourself in certain areas. And that, that's been true. I mean, Heinrich Schliemann, was a enthusiastic and started archaeology, but he was just an enthusiastic European. That used to be very, very common. And people would go out and be patrons of the arts and patrons of science and fund expeditions. And you frankly fall into that category.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Did that ever occur to you that, I forget what they call them, in England, there were always people that were well resourced, but also wanted to have projects that kind of advanced human knowledge. I mean, that's been going on for years, but I think it's going to pick up because regular science has now died. They used to work in concert with regular science.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of different types of intelligence out there. There's a lot of different types of human beings and people and thinkers, and I think that with technology the way that it is and the connectivity that we all have with each other now, it's allowing a lot of people to shine and a lot of curious minds, like you said. And I think AI is ultimately going to play a big part in this as well. And you get all these scan files online, and you get those files out there for people to analyze. It's one thing for people to analyze them. It's another thing when you start getting AI to analyze these things and start creating theories about how were these made and what was the order of construction and what were the tools that were used. And I think you get enough of them and you get some high-tech, sophisticated artificial intelligence tool analyzing these things, and all of a sudden you can tell, hey, which ones are modern, which ones are made with modern machines, which ones are ancient, and kind of figure out a lot of the mysteries behind them. So in the meantime, there's a lot of really smart people, a lot of really great people doing a lot of great research on this and really pushing this thing forward to try to understand, what were our ancestors really capable of.
And what Dr. Max showed, and I was kind of, anybody that is a podcast addict will understand this. I listened to that great show, but I listened to it. I was at various places, from the car to the steam room to all over the place. I never got one live moment. And you were describing the graphs, and I'd like you to take over. I've been doing a lot of talking, but what he was doing is plotting the quality of the precision. Is that a fair? Or maybe both of you were. Is this your graph that I'm going to pop up right here?
Oh, no, Max did that work. Yeah, Max
he did.
Yeah, Max analyzed that. He actually wrote the software to be able to analyze it based on the measurements. And so what we're looking at here is 3 separate classes of artifacts, and the green circle are the precise artifacts. Most of these are in my collection, and a few of them he bought off of eBay or Amazon. They're just modern granite vases, and I think a couple of them were onyx, maybe. But yeah, there's a clear distinction between these various classes of artifacts, and you can see that this is the chart that's to scale. So it goes up the vertical axis. It goes 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and then out to the right. That's all to scale. So I mean, it just shows that you've clearly got machine-based manufacturing happening within the objects on the green circle. And the vertical axis is the external circularity, and the horizontal axis is the internal circularity of the artifacts. And so, going out to the right, you see that you've got the green one on the far right. That means that its internal perfection is not quite as strong as its external perfection.
You're talking about within the green circle, the green one on the far right.
That's it. Yeah, that's the one I'm pointing to.
Its inner circularity is relatively lacking.
No, I mean just compared to the others in the precise class.
Just compared to the precise category.
But if you take a look at that one, and Ryan might be able to tell us which one that is, there's probably a reason for that. Like it's probably because of the way that the inner part of it was hollowed out compared to the outside of it. I mean, for most of these, there's a reason, but the bottom line is the green was machined, and there's no question about that. The only question is, when were these machined, and what machine was used to manufacture them? But when you hear people talking about these were done by hand, that's impossible for this precise class of artifacts. It's absolutely impossible. And you can look at them and tell that, and hold them in your hand and tell that, or you can look on this chart and tell that. But yeah, and then
Matt, the inside is always, well, am I correct to say it's always a little rougher than the outside, right?
Not always. No, sometimes the inside's polished, but a lot of times, most of the time, you will see the tool marks on the inside of these artifacts. Yeah.
So shouldn't that shift one of those more dramatically? It seems like since they're all going up like that on average, the inner and outer perfection, be it whatever category, is similar.
That's one of the craziest parts about this, is that the inner tool, whatever that tool was, he's taking a slice on the horizontal axis of the inside of the artifact. So, and he's measuring that circularity on the inside. So, whatever tool was being used, it was creating a tool mark on the inside of the artifact that was completely horizontal. This is not spiral grooves going up and down the thing. If it was spiral grooves, you're right. This would be less accurate on the inside than the outside. But these are flat grooves. These are completely flat grooves, and so that's why there's not really a difference between the inside and the outside. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. But it doesn't make sense on how the fuck somebody did that.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, let's start with the lay. I had a good talk with an Episcopal priest yesterday. Had lunch with him. Yeah. And he's a fan of our subjects and definitely the vases. And this is kind of jumping to a different thing, but we kind of got into it over Providence. Mm-hmm. It's circular. That if you give enough grief to Providence, to these vases, you're giving grief to a lot of art around the world. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, if you're that's right. You got to, at some point, stop with it. He was basically saying if you can't date it to pre-dynastic, you can have no faith any of them are pre-dynastic. Uh-huh. But then let me ask you this. This is great. This is less than 24 hours ago. Was there ever, when you see the old black and white photographs from the Nakata grave excavations, I don't know when they were, but say 20s, 30s, whatever, they were taking photographs, and you see some of the pots sitting down there beside the bone tool and the crude copper chisel and the crude pottery, you see one of the beautiful vessels. has anyone or any of those identifiable in collections today? Like you had a photo of it, unless someone went and climbed down in the grave and sat it down there. You have a photo of it in there. Has anyone got that chain of provenance or any of the?
No, I don't think so. Not that I'm aware of. I haven't seen that.
Because see, that's all this guy would take.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure he'd take that.
Right.
And he was interested in a fan, but he was just saying it's hopeless. And I was like, no, it's not. I mean, I think you can make a critically reasoned assumption that some portion of these were pre-dynastic, since things that look just like them were found in pre-dynastic graves, things that found just like them. Can you take any of them and say this one was definitely taken from the step pyramid?
I mean, so Ben has some fragments that were definitely taken from the
Yeah,
step.
okay. I'm interested in that part too.
Yeah, and those look to be extremely precise and
Right.
incredibly well polished on the inside. And they've got the same tool marks that a lot of the ones that you see in museums and the ones that you see in private collections, including my collection, have. They've got the same tool marks, and those are 1,000% guaranteed to be taken from inside the step pyramid. So it's a very similar method of manufacturing construction. It's the same method of manufacturing construction. So, but I mean, if you go back to your question, which I think was about to hit on something pretty important, it's the art market in general. I mean, so what is real in museums today? We really don't even know that. And that's why this work that we're doing is so important, because if we can actually figure out that these are or are not real, if we figure out that they are real, then that changes human history, right? I mean, that's a really big deal. If we figure out that they're not real, then we really have to start questioning what's real within museums, because a lot of the stuff that's in museums that we see was donated by private collectors, whether that was in the Cairo Museum, 1924, there was all kinds. There was a bunch of these artifacts that were donated to museums in the Cairo Museum, but museums all around the world. So we don't really know, unless we have a specific grave site or a specific dig. And when you go back 100 years, I mean, how much do we really trust that information anyway? So I think that the work that we're doing to attempt to analyze how these were made and what tools were used, and using like electron microscopes to zoom in and to see, is there metal fragments left over? Is this really copper? I mean, to try to figure out when these were made and how they were made. It's super important, not just for the art, for art that's circulating around the world that people are buying and trading and selling, but also for the stuff in museums. I mean, millions of people are going to museums every day and looking at all this old stuff, and it's like, how much of it's really real? We don't know. I'm not for sure going down the path of fake, obviously you can tell the age that exists on many of these. I mean, there's a lot within the collection that just, you can't fake the age and the wear and the tear that you see on these artifacts. Right. But I will say that you don't get that a lot on the super precise class. They're very well polished. There's not a lot of damage on the ones in the super precise class. So,
but it gets back to the same question of, if the prehistoric peoples did it, what is the allocation of labor to do such a thing has to match the payoff to the laborer. Okay. And playing with this idea with my guy yesterday, and I didn't really know whether it's true, but in 1880 or 1890 or whatever, when some of these things would have entered collections, perhaps as frauds, there's a whole problem with that. How did they make a perfect thing then? But were they valuable then? I know that we've gone through various Egypt manias in England through the years and whatnot, but were they particularly valuable? They weren't gold, they're not immediately, they're striking in their own way. But do you think that they sold relatively, the values relative to other antiquities in the day could have been such that someone would have cared in the 1800s to create a precise granite carved vessel? Was there value there?
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, just being.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, let's make the assumption. There's just
when you look at them,
I'd go think of painting before I would dig create one of these if you're a faker,
Yeah.
there had to be better things to fake.
Yeah, and it would have been very difficult to fake them back
Yeah.
in that time period as well, especially to an extraordinarily precise, quality. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know the history. I don't know. Again, I think we're getting into a little bit of speculation with that probably, and like what likelihood and all of that stuff. And it's all good to think about and to talk about, but at the end of the day, we got to get to some truth about these things. And I think we can do that through the analysis. We can do that through the scanning of these artifacts. And that's I'm really excited about the scans that Adam and Caroli did.
Polka.
Polka, yep, thank you.
We'll both be at the Cosmic Summit.
Good. Yeah, I'm ready to see those. I think the world is ready to see those, and I think that's really important to see and understand what the museum scans are showing and how accurate and how precise the museum scans are. And then people like Max, once the STL files are out there and available for the public to look at, people like Max and there's thousands of people that are fascinated and interested in this topic now and are researching these scans. The sooner we get those out there to the public, the sooner we release those, the sooner we make progress. And every month and year that goes by that we're holding on to that data, I think we're just missing out on the ability to understand our ancient past and push this forward. So I'm super excited about the work that they did, and Max is actually also looking at going to some museums and scanning some ancient artifacts and publishing those results and sharing the STLs. So the more that we can do on that, and the quicker that we can do it, the better. And
one of my big takeaways from the podcast, or when it is more a takeaway about you, really, was that the P.T. Barnum headline on these vases have been, if anybody wants to pump it up, you could never make anything approaching this perfection today. And I've said things like that, right?
Yeah, I don't think that's true.
And you don't think that's true.
No.
But it would have been if you were a grifter on this subject, and I know you're a very humble man, but I mean, let's just speak of it. If you were grifting this subject, you would not bring forth data that undermines the more extraordinary claims about the objects. That all of them would be perfect, would be the, and you've said this for some time, but now it's craft. I mean, y'all have really zeroed it in and said they're classes of these objects. You've known all the time, some aren't as perfect as others, but now you can say that there's some modern that's what's one of the takeaways, that there's some modern objects that actually do approach the perfection, maybe more closely than we had supposed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, those are modern, but they're $40 on eBay. They're super cheap and super easy to get, and so they don't have handles, but I mean the handles isn't going to be that much of a stretch. But yeah, we could.
But the handles is a pretty big deal, right?
It just takes a lathe. I mean, it's just like a 5-axis CNC mill to come back and take that material off between the handles. I mean. It's very much doable today. It's not. We're way beyond this. I mean, we're cleaning up space dust in orbit right now. We can do this.
We can do this.
Yeah, we can do this. I mean, there's those. What are those massive granite balls that are floating on water that are perfectly symmetrical? That there's a water fountain underneath them and they're twisting and turning. I mean, those things are equally as. My understanding is those are down to the thousandth of an inch of perfect roundness. I mean, and those weigh tons. This is we can do this for sure. And we're showing
at least the ones that y'all do. We can do this, but your analysis here did not identify a modern artifact that came as close as the Green Group.
Correct. Yeah, no, that's correct, and we certainly can't make them by hand. I think the Olga's artifacts that she did are very much in the imprecise class. You can't do it by hand. And she even cheated, with the bearings and a rotating table. But yeah, it's the imprecise class we can make with more primitive tools. The precise class we need machines to do, but we can do them all today, in my opinion. and I think that this if you go and you order something like this from China and you ask them to build this for you and you measure it, it's gonna be no problem. I hope this isn't like controversial or anything to anybody listening to this. It'll just I'm happy to prove this out and to order something that's super precise and to have Max measure it. He just kind of randomly picked some stuff that was more machined on the outside with not a very sophisticated machine. And then I think the inside of his was not. I think the inside of his was more hand tools. It was like it wasn't even machined. It was.
So you're assuming, and that sounds like a pretty safe assumption, that aerospace grade stuff, the or aesthetically seeming stuff like that they would fall over, they would jump in the other category.
They would be in the precise class, yeah.
They would be in the precise, but you hadn't done one yet, so that's news to come. That'll be an interesting dot to see where it falls. But that does not. It undermines the P.T. Barnum claims.
Still being debated. I didn't realize I was still being debated very strongly. Honestly, I thought everybody kind of realized that we could do these today. If that's still a debate, I'm happy to put some work into that and kind of, bring some show that it's very much doable. I can hopefully maybe get that work done by Cosmic Summit and include it as a part of the presentation. I think we're pretty much past that.
Well, I just think that that's a good demonstration of using the scientific method to find things out instead of assume them, based on prior work. You go out and let the chips fall where they may. And some of the chips fell pretty damn perfect, but it doesn't, then it presents you with the problem. And it's a little bit, okay, if we went out and found an iPhone, is always the example, but you found an iPhone in a cot of grave, we'd still be just as astonished. Yes, we can make iPhones today. Right? So the claim that these are more perfect than we could ever achieve is, if that is undermined, you're still left with a mystery. It's just got some caveats to it. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah, for sure. Okay. No, I mean, look, we can't make the precise class by hand. We can make the imprecise class by hand. So all of the ones in the imprecise class can be made with more primitive tools. Now, they weren't made with hammer and chisel, so it's not as if these were primitive copper tools. It's not like you've got a rock and a stick and you're just twisting it with your hand. I mean, it's more sophisticated than that, way more sophisticated than that, even for the imprecise class. But at the same time, again, they're you can't make them with primitive. Even the imprecise class is going to take like a lathe. It's going to take some type of device where you're turning the stone and you're grinding off the outside of the stone and then you're grinding the inside of the stone. And there's a lot of questions like what did they use? What was the material that was used? Were they grinding granite on granite? Were they grinding, was there some type of a harder stone that was used to carve the outside and the inside? I don't really think we know, the exact manufacturing process or even the order of manufacturing. Like did they tube drill the inside out first? It does appear that they were tube drilling, the inside to get all of these started. And then, very likely that was one of the first steps. And then the outside would have been, carved. From there, it would have been spun, probably with that tool still in it, probably with the tube drill still in it to so that it didn't lose its circularity and its roundness, if you're, and then, from there you get the handles done, and then you probably thin the walls. I feel like the thinning of the walls would have to be one of the last steps, just so that you got everything done. Because if you're still trying to hammer off the space between the handles while the walls are thin, there's a much higher chance that you're going to break that artifact. And
damn, you have thought this all the way through, and so had Max, and that's kind of interesting part to me about that podcast. It was all meat and potatoes, data and scans for the first half.
Yeah.
And then it got kind of wild on the second half.
Yeah, we went into some stuff, yeah. But
Okay.
I mean, look, we don't know, man. George, I mean, it's like that's the fun part about this is that
That's right.
while we're speculating and, kind of guessing, like none of what I'm saying is like 100% fact and we know this for sure, but we're all still kind of working through this together. I'm talking about things that are, probably the most likely explanation and the most likely. But again, I mean, there's a lot of mysteries here, and it's not solved. But I think the big thing to realize is that, yeah, we can make these today.
Tell us about the second half of the podcast and what Dr. Max thinks, because I'm very comfortable with speculation, very comfortable with ambiguity. Not everybody is. Clearly, you and I are, right?
Yeah.
But the reason I had the Cosmic Summit was I knew all these PhDs that were meat and potatoes data people, period. And then I got to know all the speculators through, running a blog and stuff, and like Graham and Randall, et cetera. And it seemed like you could have a nice transition between here is hard data, we believe there was a catastrophe, then have someone come and talk about, well, Plato said the same thing. He said 9,000 years before my own time. Let me talk about Atlantis for the next hour, right? So going from data to speculation, what was Max's speculation?
I mean, Max is like everybody else listening to this podcast, I think. I mean, he's convinced that there was some sort of a cataclysm 12,000 years ago, 12,800 years ago. And, so he is of the mindset that there was advanced humans prior to that time period at some point in prehistory. I mean, humans go back a long time, I mean, there could be up to 1 million years old that we've been walking around this planet, maybe more. I mean, if we go back 1 million years, certainly could be more than that. And it's just because we haven't found the fossils yet doesn't mean that it didn't exist. It's, when you look at
we've never found a Clovis person.
Exactly. And the Denisovans, I mean, we just found the Denisovans, a brand new race of humans that existed for, hundreds of thousands of years. So it's like, yeah, it's difficult to piece together the pieces based on artifacts and bones. So, I think it's and then you got this story about this in Southeast Asia, humans 40,000 years ago were making these boats and ropes and hooks and catching sharks and tuna and eating the sharks and tuna. And it's like, that was happening 40,000.
Those weren't butt flap people.
Right. So, I mean, they're going deep into the ocean. Like, I mean, that's capable of transnavigating the world if you're catching deep sea fish like that. So, I think it's just becoming more and more obvious to everybody that humans were doing stuff before, and they weren't just like walking around like, looking at trees and, in prehistory. They weren't stupid. We were capable of just exactly what we're capable of today. Deep into human history, and Max is aware of that. Max isn't dumb. The people that the people that are afraid of that are the people who are, they've got their belief system, and you can't change a belief system. They're just not open to, alternatives. No, they're not open to Younger Dryas being a real event because, whatever.
No, I find that. Well, of course, that's what got me started down this road, because there are not many things I say unequivocally. Just that I'm comfortable with ambiguity. I'm not even sure what the hell calls the Carolina Bays. I've been working on it since George Bush 1 was president, right? And so get ready. You might have another 20, 25 years in you, but at least you can. Well, we were using forensic data too, but it's real hard to overturn these people. And I believe unequivocally that there was a catastrophe 12,800 and some years ago.
For sure.
That's just, the papers are published.
Right.
The data is there. Yeah. The people, they're largely unrefuted. And as Martin Sweatman and Jim Powell have done so well, the refutation such that they are threadbare and don't relate to the data. I mean, they're just, we got them. They're more than on the run. The Younger Dryas event's a damn fact.
Right.
Okay, but Max believes these people may have had access to nuclear materials. Could you tell us something about that?
Yeah, he does. That's his theory. I mean, he thinks he's in that camp. He thinks it's a strong possibility. I also had Billy Carson on this week, and he thinks the same thing.
Coming to the summit. Billy is coming to the summit.
Oh, is he? Oh, okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I didn't even talk.
Yep. It was right before we got in touch with him, and he's going to be a featured guest.
Oh, cool.
Doesn't have a speaking slot, but just because we had them all filled up and whatnot.
Yep.
But but can't have him. He got controversial this spring. I think that just makes things more interesting. I've had some extensive talks with him about it. I'm very, very comfortable with the guy. I don't
Billy's a
expect
good
everyone
guy.
else to be.
Billy's a good guy. He's very
He's a
intelligent.
good guy.
He's, he's got his beliefs. Everybody's got some wild beliefs, man. I mean, whether
Well, hell yeah, and he's also an extraordinary communicator.
Oh, yeah.
And God knows we need this in this field.
Right.
I mean, we've got a lot of them, but we can't have too many. And he is absolutely a top shelf communicator, businessman, and damn media mogul. And some people take that as grifting. I mean, good God, give me a break.
Right.
If you don't think there's got to be some commercialism involved in paradigm change, you ain't gonna get a paradigm change.
Yeah, I legit don't think I don't think he's lying about what he says. Like
That's right.
He believes what he's talking about. Like and people have wild beliefs. Like that's okay.
Yeah.
We're not like judging, some religion that we don't agree with or that doesn't fit into our religion and, telling those people they're crazy. It's like, people have wild beliefs. It's like, it's just a part of it. It's a part of the human psyche at this point. So what his beliefs do is they push us forward because he's exploring things and topics and possibilities that other people aren't.
There you go. And connections.
Yeah. Right. So,
And he suffers a little bit theory of everything. He's trying to take it all on.
Yeah, but Max on the in this whole nuclear thing. I mean, look, there's he sees higher than background level radiation all throughout Egypt. He sees that Egyptologists have a higher death rate from radiation and cancer, and he thinks that the Vases could have possibly been storage places for nuclear waste. He thinks that might be how they were cut. He thinks that you could have softened them, and when he looks at them with his electron microscope, he doesn't see any remnants of tools. He sees like just completely clean artifacts. And when he's looked at mine and when he's looked at some of the fragments from Ben from underneath the step pyramid, he's not seeing like metal or copper or, some like hard stone remnants in there. They're clean. And that's weird. So
that is weird as can be because that would persist. That stuff would stay in the little nooks and crannies down there for thousands of years. It should be there.
So you would think so, yeah. So he's like, well, if this was a nuclear technology, and you're sending just copious amounts of electrons, and you're softening and cutting and kind of like melting, but then like pulling out the excess material, that's what it would look like. And so, I think there's this whole nuclear thing is fascinating. I don't know, man. It's just one of
Does he also remind me? Does he believes that this technology, if you will, seemed to also lend itself to other places in the world?
Yeah.
Right. That if you had this skill, you could also do, the Peruvian stones.
Right.
So that's what is sexy woman.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And there's this place in Africa that is like a natural nuclear reactor, and Ryan might be able to
Gambia.
help. Yeah, like what where it is exactly, but that it could potentially be like as old as the Earth itself, like billions, like a couple of billion years old, and but that nuclear reactions have been taking place there since the beginning of time, and that humans, who knows? And he thinks that a lot of the famines that that people have experienced, it's not like ghosts and poltergeists, it's like nuclear fallout and radiation poisoning. So,
yeah, I thought that was very interesting. But I would hope that whoever the leader was provided good health insurance and pension plan for the carvers.
Right. You would hope so.
I mean, that would have been a real short-term gig. Here, take this material and go use it to soften that stone and catch some gamma rays yourself, young man.
Yeah, for sure.
Oklahoma.
Yeah, it was cool. I'm glad you enjoyed that one. But I mean, we've done some great podcasts on the vase topic and all these other topics. I mean, I had
Hell, I enjoy the Kurt Cobain ones. I know more about Kurt Cobain than I ever did.
Yeah, for sure.
Damn interesting. I kind of like true crime. You've got a true crime side to you.
Yep. Yeah, no doubt. That's one that I'm looking to get to next on. There was a little bit of drama with that internally, where I probably shouldn't like totally get into the drama, and it's not even worth getting into.
There's always drama, bud.
There's always drama, but people got a little scared about that one, and I'm just want to say that I'm pushing forward with that. I'm not stopping. We're continuing the investigation, and we're going to turn over the information to the authorities by July
Okay.
for sure. And I think we got a really good chance of getting that case reopened. It's a small team of people, but the research and the work that we're doing. I mean, we've got ballistic skulls ordered, gel skulls. We've got a gun expert hired. I've got a high-speed camera guy. They're going out in 2 weeks to shoot these things and to test the results.
Well, I know the lady who wrote the book. She was an author, right?
Which book?
The lead investigator. I don't know. You had her on.
Oh, Michelle.
Yeah, Michelle.
No, she didn't write it. She didn't. She wasn't. She's not an author.
Oh, is she not an author? She's just an enthusiastic digger out there, true crimer.
Yeah, she runs the whokilledkurt.org website and podcast, and she's brilliant.
I know they appreciate you joining the battle with them.
Yeah. It's me and Michelle. It's like it's me and Michelle, and obviously I've got legal help, and she's got a bunch of people working with her on the case, but I'm not doing much. I'm just kind of behind the scenes and getting this pushed in the right direction and getting this pushed to conclusion. And Michelle and the lawyer are really the ones that I got to give all the credit to them for really, the lawyer was very skeptical going into this. He's like, he didn't even know if he wanted to take it. And the more he dug into it and talking to some of the witnesses, one of the guys that was there that night, he's like, he's blown away at this point. No pun intended, but that one's fun, man. That one's fun. And I'm very confident we're going to get to next on this thing. It's just a matter of time. And when we turn in the evidence, I think there's a good chance that it's going to get reopened. There's a big backlog in the Seattle PD right now. So,
oh God, I can imagine what a mess
it's a disaster.
I'm sure all the good cops have quit.
Yeah.
The detectives and stuff. I mean, who wants to go track down a murderer when they let murderers run free?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me do a little more pitch on Billy Carson coming. I need to add that just today I confirmed that Mr. Luke Caverns will be returning to the Cosmic Summit.
Good.
Yeah.
Good, that's exciting.
And that's like Johanna calling me and saying that she just had the wedding she's in canceled.
Oh, no way. Okay.
Yeah, no, that didn't happen. Wedding didn't. I got you. But we lost two favorites of the Cosmic Summit, Johanna James and Luke this year. And Johanna's in a wedding. And which is a great excuse. There are very few excuses where you just go, come on, But if somebody, one of your girlfriends asks you to be in a wedding, of course you're not going to come to the Cosmic Summit. Mm-hmm. And but Luke, his research duties in Guatemala, I believe, were supposed to extend past the summit, and it was a pretty hard date. And he was very disappointed he couldn't make it. Told me just as soon as that came to be, but it was so close that now that things are getting refined in their schedule and flights and all that, it turns out he's going to land in Greensboro Friday night at midnight, and he's going to come join us. That'll be Friday the 20th, the first day. Oh, he'll miss the field trip. But hopefully he's not going to be too exhausted. But as I told him, he's good. He's a young guy. He's got a hell of a schedule. I mean, he just got back from Cambodia. He's going to Peru between now and the summit. He's got to move he and his new wife, all their furniture from Austin to Greensboro, North Carolina. Luke Caverns is setting up family in Greensboro, which is a coincidence and really cool. So Luke's coming. And let me give one other announcement. Maybe that can segue us into some further Egypt talk, because you are interested in the subject of Egypt and its history in general, not just the vases. At 1:30 on Saturday the 21st, the Pyramid Scan researchers, the Khafre Project Scan researchers that kind of shocked the world in March with their claim that they were able to remote sense beneath the pyramids without going and setting off little explosions. There are various ways you can look under the ground, and I've been looking into that, but there are very few that you can do in a non-invasive manner, and you don't have to get a permit. And that's what they came forward with. And I was kind of surprised at the reaction, but the most important communication on this subject is they're coming to Greensboro, and 4 of them. And I interviewed him last week or a couple of weeks ago on my podcast. And I feel very, very strongly that these gentlemen are onto something, and that to suggest that they are not scientists, which I went in great depth on a live stream the other day and looked up one of these articles. We had a Egyptologist that said they aren't scientists. And I looked her up, and she had one citation, period, in her whole academic career. And I look up Filippo Biondi's, and he's got 88 in one of the most dense technical fields that you could imagine. You know, yeah, he's a scientist.
Yeah.
Now, could they have overinterpreted or made some PR mistakes, which is not unusual for scientists, by these interpretations? And I'll turn to you in a moment without getting on a rant. But the 3D interpretations, the drawings that they provided, here's what we think are, you know, it might look like beneath the pyramids. That stuff wasn't publication ready, and it was given to Trevor Grossi and one expected to go worldwide, right? And it was in a poorly formatted PDF that he put on his Facebook. Nothing wrong with it. I don't think necessarily flawed, but you can't. I think holding them to, I think your 3D. I heard somebody say the other day, you know, everything is square in Egypt. This is an Egypt expert, had been to all of the sites, and beneath many of the sites said everything's square. Well, okay. If you look at his scans, and I had to draw it, I would say, well, this kind of has some kind of circularity to it. So they were just being honest to the data. I think if they tried to go fit it in what we think would be down there and what it would look like, I don't think that would be proper. But they're coming to Greensboro. And when I interviewed them, I was like, Dr. Biondi, any way you can turn off your AC or turn off those fans in the back? He goes, but George, those are the computers crunching the data, right? I didn't know those were his chips running in the background. Chewing through the AI and the combined acoustical data, seismically induced kind of acoustical data, plus the traditional SARS, plus AI, and that requires a lot of compute. And they hadn't completed all that. In fact, they'll probably never complete it. They're always going to be running chips, doing whatever he's doing. But they're going to come to Greensboro with further results, right? And I did not dare have them promise or anything, but my feeling is that they're not going to come forward with any of those further results prior to June 21st. That it really will be a global demonstration, revelation of further data that they have, which people seem to be calling for, while also casting shade on them, even from the unconventional history community, which really kind of got my goat, man. I do not like factionalism and turfism and whatnot. People are entitled to give their gut, but a lot of the people, and I hate to say the word community is so much overused, but God, let's just say it, in our community, which is even worse. But that kind of writ large, we know what I'm talking about. There was a lot of shade thrown on these guys. And a lot of it was uninformed as hell. Like some of it was they need to go and compare it to known underground structures. Well, that person who went and talked to God knows how many thousands of people, their creators that are saying some of this stuff, that they obviously had not taken 5 minutes to Google Dr. Biondi, because the second hits his webpage and it's a good 100 or so comparisons. But, you know, here's how we saw oil wells. Here's how we saw this tunnel. Here's what it looks like. And they're not anywhere near done with that stuff. So I think we're going to see more comparative scans, which were already existing and not given credit for in people's critiques. And I think also that people will see that Dr. Biondi is the kind of scientist, very much same kind of stuff happened with the Comet Research Group. And I was kind of their Trevor Grossi, where you're the enthusiastic outsider, but you kind of get some of the info first. And they say, yeah, you can put that out. They used to happen on my blog all the time. But that they'll see that Dr. Biondi is a qualified person in this field, a highly technical guy, and his Armando, who'll be with him, you know, he called him a genius on my podcast the other day. And I think what we do have on our hands, it's not beyond the ken of man to come up with ways to see beneath the earth. And I go on with this a lot, and I know I've been kind of filibustering here, but I think it's important. I want to defend these guys to the extent that, but I'm sure what we know what's under that nuclear mountain in Iran. That's been the most strategic global security question for most of my lifetime, right? Is what the fuck are they doing under Mount Nawaz and the associated nuclear? If you don't think that the U.S. government, and this is our crowd that'll be saying this stuff, like this can't be done, SAR only looks 3 meters down. These are the same people that think we're flying UFOs and shit. If you don't think it's technologies that exist to look under the ground, I don't think you have very much confidence in us. Okay, does that mean Filippo has come from the dark side and brought this forward? No, it means that the tools are out there. And if they're put together properly by sufficiently intelligent, cutting-edge people in remote sensing, you might be able to come up with a way to look beneath the pyramid. So I'll stop here for a second. What did you think of those announcements in March? Call bullshit on it after I...
No, look, man. I think that it's all we got to be open. We got to be open. I don't think that picking a side right now makes any sense. There's some drama, whatever. There's different groups and people. That's all illusion. That none of that's real. There's humans. I mean, we're part of the human community, and we need to understand what reality looks like. And so, what we can do is attempt to stay open to what reality might look like, and not come to the conclusion before we've had enough time to analyze the situation and really determine one way or the other what's true. So nobody knows what's true. I think that there's some people that are jumping into the camp of there's a mile deep space underneath the pyramid, and it was used for 40 million years, and it's a nuclear reactor, and then you got people that are saying there's nothing there. I mean, and then there's people.
Well, Randall's saying very really maybe it's natural caverns. Maybe they were repurposed.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, whatever. I mean, anything's possible. So let's just figure out what the answer is, right? I mean, right now it's just speculation, and nobody knows. And so let's see what these people. I'm sure they're smart scientists. Let's have their research vetted and see if we can't get some answers. I think that would be one of the coolest things ever if we could find out that there's something there. But at the same time, it's like I think as a group of people, call it a community, call it whatever you want. It's this community that we're a part of is open-minded people. It's not people that are jumping to conclusions like this is the truth and this is and there's these ancient caverns and this I know what we were doing underneath the Great Pyramid. Nobody knows, man. Nobody knows.
That's right.
So let's figure it out together. Let's stay open together. Let's not get attached to this one thing and attempt to make something out of it that may or may not prove to exist. Let's just stay open-minded and let's figure out what the truth is here. So that's why I love that they're coming to the summit, and I love that they're going to be presenting their evidence. And then after they do that, hopefully we all are a lot more educated. It's like the Malcolm thing. It's like the thunderstorm generator. Like I was really hoping for a great presentation from him last year, and for him to stand up there in front of everybody and be open and tell everybody exactly how it worked. And
right.
I mean, he invited a handful of people up to talk about him for 45 minutes, and then he played a video for 15 minutes. And it's like that's not the way to convince people that your technology is real and that it works. So I'm not saying it's not, but that for me that didn't help the case. So there's all these interesting things happening out there, and to get attached to one or the other, it's largely a waste of time. I think. Let's.
Yeah, I think his case was insufficiently made. I think it's of a different breed than what's going on with these guys too.
Yeah.
If Malcolm had come forward with 80 some citations in a dense technical field and had followed the path, when you read Beyondi's stuff, you can see that he's been playing with this stuff for a long time, and he might have crossed a milestone where he says, hey, I can do this now. I've been working on it for 30 years.
Yeah.
Where Malcolm's like, oh, Jesus, well, what spaceship did this guy land on, or what mental institution did he escape from? Right. It had to be one or the other.
That's why I'm loving my podcast, Limitless, because I get to just talk to so many interesting people that are working on so many interesting things. I know Ashton Forbes is coming to the Cosmic Summit as well. I mean, this MH370 thing. There's some there's I guess Ross Coulthart came out recently and is like, yo, that's stock footage clouds, and Ashton's like, yeah, it's stock footage, but they weren't stock footage till 2016. So somebody,
Yeah.
it's like keeping up with this stuff and like trying to figure
Yeah.
out what the truth is here. You get too attached to it, you can spend your whole life trying to figure out one little thing. But that's why I love Limitless, because I'm talking to so many freaking fascinating people that are brilliant with incredible theories, and it's like, let's explore all of these, and then hopefully over time, and I'm going to, invest in my time and hope energy and resources into finding some truth on some of these that really feel like, there could be something there that I can actually help with and bring to next, like the Cobain thing, like the Vases, like a few of the others that I'm working on. One, there can't really kind of get into yet, but there's going to be a big exploration of a site that everybody in the world is aware of, and everybody wants to see what's in there. Certainly in our community, and we're working on. I'm funding the research to be able to help build some of the technology to be able to explore this hidden this place that's been hidden for thousands of years, that everybody wants to know what's in there. So there's some things in the works, that I can't even talk about.
I love it, man.
Probably get kicked off the damn team just for saying that, but there's a lot of stuff in the works that I think, let's get some truth. Let's find some truth. Let's see what's going on out there, and, put our resources where we can to
put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, exactly. Let's figure some shit out together. So,
after we stop recording, can you tell me where it is?
We're talking in front of thousands of people here, so everybody's going to come up to you and ask you what it was that I was talking about.
Oh, damn.
So I don't know if I can.
Now
you kind of screwed yourself on that.
Well, no, I've got a long history of that. They used to say when I worked in the U.S. Senate, telephone, telegraph, tele-George.
Yeah. No, I think there might be something coming out about this in the next. I'm optimistic that I'll be able to talk about this within the next 60 days. And if that happens, then it'll be out there.
What about the next 45?
Possibly.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, that's possible, actually. And if that's the case, then certainly I'll talk about it. I'll make mention of it at the summit. But the exploration is right now scheduled to happen in December of this year. So, could that get pushed back a month? For sure, possibly.
Yeah.
I don't know, but hopefully we'll be able to actually talk about this. Right now, it's just friends and family can know, but beyond that, we can't talk.
But it sounds like good stuff. This sounds like really
good
red
shit,
meat.
man. Yeah, it's
Is
good
it
stuff.
really?
Yeah, people are going to be pumped about this for sure. Yeah, it's a big deal.
Awesome.
And I'm not going to build stuff up just meaninglessly. This is a big,
Oh, I know. No. I know you well enough to know that, and it's a sense that it must be tremendously interesting.
Yep.
How do you feel about your own presentation? Have you already prepared it? Could you give us a little kind of preview of how you're formatting it, or?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I haven't prepared it yet, so just life has been crazy. But I just want to explain everything that I know about them. I wanted to explain the just what we know in terms of the precise class versus the imprecise class versus modern versus Olga's. A lot of the stuff that Max and I worked on together. I want to explain a little bit about the metrology system that's involved in some of these, and I've got a bunch more now that I'm going to be checking out to see if that metrology of the Royal Cubit metrological system exists within these, because that's a game changer, because that pushes that date back farther into time. I want to touch on a little bit about the light scanning versus CT scanning, and understanding the pros and cons of each of those. Just go into some of the potentially some of the construction, like the manufacturing, and how it could have been done and how it was done on the precise class and how it was done on the other imprecise class. And I think just kind of hopefully it's going to be like an overall dump of not dump but an overall just explanation of everything that I've been able to learn about these in 2.5 years of.
Well, I hope it kind of seems appropriate to you or mentally helpful or a milestone to go out and say, okay, I got an hour and a half. How do I take a whole lot of things that have happened and increased understandings?
Right.
I would think it'd be kind of fun, and because you're an experienced public speaker and you don't have that hesitation.
Right.
So I'd hope that you look forward to coming, letting us know what the state of the art is, because a lot of this stuff is picked up in fragments.
Yeah.
I mean, no one sees, the whole thing laid out properly. Well, Ben did some good stuff, but
oh yeah, Ben's amazing. Yeah,
yeah.
There's some misinformation. There's some good information out there. And most of the misinformation is coming from like the mainstream side. They just don't know what they're talking about, man.
Well, Flint Dibble is always welcome to join us at the Cosmic Summit.
Really, I might be skipping out then, man.
Oh shit, yeah, I've heard some of that stuff.
No, I don't have. I just everybody keeps like, get him on your show. I got no desire. I mean, it's not a big. I don't hold any resentment or grudges or anything. I mean, we've communicated very little. I just think he's not open-minded to possibilities about when, where, how they were made, and you back him into a corner on something, and it's like, oh, they're fake. Okay. What do you do with that? Like, he's not helping the conversation at all. And
he's not a critical thinker. He's a defender of the known.
Exactly. Yeah. And
that's what I call them, defenders of the known. Listen, here's my job. Here's what I said. Here's what we think is known.
It's not even.
So my job is defend it at all cost.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not even known. Nothing against the guy. I'm sure he's a great guy. I have nothing, negative to say about the guy whatsoever, and I would never do that. I just feel that there's possibilities out there, but we're never going to get to those possibilities and understand them fully if we're closed-minded to something other than our beliefs. And it's a belief system for a lot of people. Like, human history is a belief system for a lot of people. It's and there's no changing their minds on it, and you know that it's a belief system when you know that there's no changing their minds on it. They're identified with a story, and it is what it is. It's like any other belief system. So when it becomes a part of your ego, you're going to defend it, and you're going to fight for it, and you're going to attack other people because you're defending what you think is the truth. That's how belief systems and ego work, and it's very difficult to get anywhere and make progress when that's the mindset. And that's why it's why we can get stuck scientifically sometimes.
Matt.
I don't know if that went through, but we clicked off for a second there.
Yeah, we did, but it's been pretty good. So, I think we're okay.
Yeah. All I said was that's kind of how you can get stuck scientifically sometimes, is when you think that you've got the truth, and it's this is the truth, this is the lane, but you're missing the other 350 degrees of possibilities when you got your blinders up. So
I just think it's pitiful, and kind of ask you about something, and we'll start wrapping up, but there should be more mainstream that we can have address this stuff than Flint Dibble and John Hoops and this handful of PhDs that come out and have this. We know exactly what they're going to say.
Yeah, they're not representative of the whole at all.
They can't be, but the ones that aren't doing what we do too, running their mouth on the internet. So I don't mean to, we're all out there sticking our face in front of people. But the ones who don't care to stick their face in front of people, who might be critical thinking Egyptologists or, related fields, call them mainstream. Wouldn't some of them want to come forward and say, hey, let's walk through this? I'm kind of interested in this. Have you had any hints of that? Somebody at the University of Florida, for God's sakes, down there that just drop by and talk with you about it.
Yeah, I'm not connected with that group. I'm really connected with the business school there, and I'm tight with those guys, and I teach classes there, but I haven't connected with people there yet. I should. That's probably a good opportunity.
Well, I probably shouldn't say this, but I wouldn't give another penny to the university system if you contribute to them and they don't at least give you a damn hearing from an Egyptologist. Right. I'll tell you. That's what the university system's for. You should be able to access the mainstream guys and engage them because you're out there producing data that should be helpful for them to understand the past. Yeah. Well, Matt, I appreciate it. What you got going on personally? You're busy with a family, right? Just to get some people some insight. Not only do you run very, very large company, but you also got boys that are teenagers, right?
I do, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm married. I have 4 kids. One's 18. He's going to college this year, so it's going to be crazy leaving the house. And then I got a 16-year-old boy, 15-year-old girl, and another son that just turned 5. So definitely busy. Super happy. Great kids. Just I kind of quit most of my hobbies in the last couple of years when I kind of decided that I would go down this path of Limitless and the podcast. There's not a whole lot of time for other stuff other than my day job, the podcast, and my family. So I don't have a whole lot else going on. I did start a website because of the overwhelming demand for. I don't want to say overwhelming, but so many people asked for the vases to be printed and sold, and people want copies of those. So I'm working hard on printing vases for people on a website called ancientstonevases.com.
Great.
And Ryan's actually putting. We're getting up 4 more today. So every
If Ryan wants to screen share that just for a second, give people a little preview of what they could see there. But I'm not sure if he's online now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean it's a way. People are gonna come to Cosmic Summit and see these things, handle them, touch them. They're gonna be able to see the prints of them. If they want to purchase any of them, then they've got the opportunity to do that. I've got a handful up there so far, but I'm working to. The time constraint is really figuring out the best way to print them so you get the highest quality print. The rest of it's fairly easy, but that's a diorite jar. It's in the precision class. Some of them are in the precise class. Some of them aren't. So, if you click on that double picture down there, Ryan, you can see kind of the original next to the print. And so
that's a very nice print there.
Yeah, we worked pretty hard to make sure that the G code file, it's a perfect representation of the actual, and obviously it's a CT scan, so you're getting both the inside walls and the outside walls. Where on a light scan you would just get the outside walls, and it would be artificially hollowed out in the middle. But with these, you're getting the inside walls. So. I'm working pretty hard on that, and I'm also releasing the STL files, the actual CT scan STL files with every one of these artifacts. I'm hoping to get the entire collection put up onto this website over time, so every one of my STL files will be available for people to analyze, download. If you try to print them and sell them yourself, I will find you. Obviously, that's going to be illegal. But if you want to buy a 3D copy, if you want to analyze the scans, my goal is to get all of them online. I've got over 80 of them, and I want to get every one of them online over time. So there's maybe 12 or 14 that are in that precise class, and the rest of them are in that imprecise class. If people are looking for kind of a ratio, that's about what it is. That one on the top left. I'm sorry,
what was the ratio again? Just so I can
there's probably 14 that are in the precise class off the top of my mind, 12 to 14 that are in the very precise class, and then the rest, there's probably 70 that are in the imprecise class, but various degrees of, and it doesn't make them worse. Like, it doesn't make them, they're equally as incredible in their own ways, the imprecise class. I think that they're, people are always interested in the precise class, but man, some of these, the age, the wear and tear that you see on some of these things, just it's mind-boggling to see the original. That one on the right there was it was broken. It was broken into probably a dozen or more pieces, and reconstructed at some point in the past. I don't know when, but that thing is old, man. That thing has got some incredible age. When you look on the inside of that thing, you can see the way that they printed it. It captured all of the cracks and crevices on the inside. The outside was, of course, pieced together perfectly and polished. But they're all, super unique. on that one right there, it's an absolute miracle how they were able to get inside and hollow it out. Ryan created a really cool video that shows the inside of these two, and
Oh, wow.
yeah, there's like that's the original nub that they weren't able.
Really?
Yeah, they weren't able to remove that nub on the inside. So they're coring that with a core drill. That's how they did all of them. Core it with a core drill, snap it off. But the mouth is so narrow that they just weren't able to get all the way down in there and get
But
rid of that.
how do you take it? I don't mean to get back in the weeds, but a core drill? It's generally vertical on both sides. It doesn't have a how do you core down in something but make it widen?
No, the widening part happens after the coring. So
okay, so you take out as much as you can coring.
The core would
you switch tools.
The core would have just been a straight down tool, like just picture a cylinder. It just goes straight down, and then after that cylinder, after that core is taken out, it's snapped off. Then they would have gone back in and removed the material from the wall to thin the walls out. And that's one of the things that Olga was not able to do. She wasn't thinning the walls on any of her artifacts or modern made imprecision pieces of rock because it's just too challenging. It's just too difficult.
Well, probably like the Nakata people, she had better things to do with her time, just taking care of her. I mean, you got to have a lot of extra resources, time, and abilities that you could divert elsewhere.
Right.
Well, that's a beautiful website and a public service.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that last one is it's $14. I mean, it's smaller, but I think that kind of shows the difference between what a CT scan picks up and what a light scan picks up, because this one has been repaired. What the CT scan, they put like plastic or clay into the original on the right so that it looked like it wasn't as damaged as it is. They fixed the top of it, but the CT scan shows you, hey, the limestone component of it is what you see on the left, and so that's what we're selling. That's the actual original without the repairs made. So it's another benefit of a CT scan is really it's just showing you the rock. It's the straight up rock, and it's just really cool. So anyway, yeah, I just wanted to share that last one with you.
Well, I look forward to seeing you in June. Thank you so much. You came. You're clearly dedicated to this stuff. You didn't have to speak, and you came last year. You know. No, and like a lot of people, you were available to chit chat the whole time, and so are others. But you are speaking this year, so you're going to sum up what you've been doing here. Final question: as one of the largest retailers in the United States, did you ever think you would retail plastic antiquity reproductions?
No, man, no. That was not in the game plan.
That was not in the game plan. Well, that's what makes life fun, man.
Exactly. You gotta, you get life throws stuff out at you and gives you these opportunities, and it's like, life is short, YOLO. So let's take advantage of the stuff that comes your way. People invite you to do something, get out there and do it. Just take the risk.
Woody Allen said it best: 90% of life is showing up. I've seen it again and again.
Exactly.
What you picture you're going to show up for, you're going to get more out of it, than what you think.
Right.
So just go do it.
That's right.
And then just go do it.
And do what feels right. I mean,
that's right.
If you feel passionate about something, go do it. Like Ben got me hooked on these vases, and then bought a few of them, and then that started the podcast. It's probably what got my first couple of guests down. You want to check out some vases, and it's like, it's just follow what feels right, and life becomes a lot of fun.
Well, I can't resist. I know there's some people out there listening that what feels right is coming to Greensboro, but you hadn't bought that pass yet, okay? So just jump in, okay? Get, the sitting around watching YouTube with your eyes bleeding trying to find someone in your neighborhood who gives a shit about this stuff. We've all been there. Yeah. There is an antidote for that, and it's available at CosmicSummit.com. So come meet Matt, meet the others, and have a physical connection to this community rather than just digital. That's what we're all about. Thanks a lot, Matt Beall.
Yes, sir. No, thank you, George. Really appreciate it, man. Appreciate you giving me the time. Good times. Good to catch up with you.
We'll see you in June, brother.
Yep. See you then, brother.